Morning, everyone. My name is Ray Latif. I'm the managing editor of BevNet, and I just wanted to let everyone know that all these presentations that you see, all the PowerPoint presentations, are going to be available for download as well, so keep that in mind. Moving on, we're going to be talking about navigating your first year as a beverage entrepreneur, and we have Eric Schnell, who is a longtime beverage entrepreneur. He's the co-founder of Steez and currently the CEO and, well, I guess currently the founder as well, of Metabrand, which works with new and early stage beverage companies on research and development and business strategy. So without further ado, Eric Schnell.
Thank you, buddy. Hey, everybody. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Well, I'll admit right off the bat I have a very strange addiction that's followed me for about 15 years now. I'm completely addicted with so much passion to the beverage industry, I can't get it out of my system. I've had a couple wins under my belt over the past 15 years and couldn't seem to go back to reality and do anything different than find my way back to the beverage business because the excitement that this business has being around it. If you look at how we serve everyone here today, the people in the audience that are here from supply chain and from the entrepreneurs that are here to launch their brands or brands that are already here that want to learn some more. I've created a model that I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to be part of at Metabrand. What we do is we serve entrepreneurs and young brands throughout their life cycle in their first couple years of business. That's our specialty. That's our sweet spot. I'm so addicted to it, I had to put a company together that let me and our team live in what's called the year one. Now, there's 2 year ones, and I just want to clarify here. You'll hear a lot of people today talking after me, the experts, about sales and distribution and how to build your brand and raise money when you're already post-production. That's what often people refer to as the typical year one when they look back on their first year in business. What we're going to talk about with my presentation today is the early year one, when you have the dream in your head to the point where you've baked it enough, you decide you're going to go off and do it. What happens that next year before you get to production? And that's a very special time. It's the time as if you're pregnant, whether you're a male or a woman, and you're incubating babies. These bottles, this product, this company, it's going to be your baby, and it takes a good year to incubate. It's a very special time. So today I'm going to talk about that. After I'm done with my presentation, our Director of Operations, Michael Fugier, will talk a little bit about supply chain setup and operational setup and best practices. And you'll hear from Catherine Deibler, our PhD Technical Director, who will talk about formulation, which is always part of the earlier one because you can't get to production unless you formulate properly. You can't get to production unless you set up your operations properly. So again, I'm very excited to be here. It's an amazing industry. I just want to point out, you'll probably hear it throughout the day, that at least from my perspective, there's no other industry that I've ever seen that someone that has zero experience, zero, in formulation or operations or creating a brand or launching a company could actually change the world through the idea that's in their head in a matter of 4 or 5 or 6 years, have a national brand that's well known and established that makes people happy, healthier, smarter, safer, who knows what it delivers in the experience. But that seed of creativity is just absolutely amazing because I've seen it time and time again in my 15 years when entrepreneurs that I meet have that excitement, that passion, and that idea, that big idea that's going to change the world, and they go out and do it. And I've seen some exits that were great. I've seen some long victories, like our friends today at Guayaki, who are still around after, I think, 12 or 13 years, plugging it out, changing the world through mate. It's an amazing industry. If you look at other things, whether you're in the law practice or the medical industry or technology, you generally have to have a degree. You have to have a pretty serious degree to make a living. This industry, you don't have to have any degree. You just have to have a lot of passion. When I started in the beginning 15 years ago, there wasn't any BevNets. There wasn't really many beverage conferences. There wasn't really many trade shows just for beverage. So there wasn't a lot of resources. So it was actually, I think, way harder back then to have success as a young beverage brand. Today, though, with things like BevNet and the beverage conferences and the expos that are out there, the natural product shows, you're just surrounded by a wealth of great entrepreneurial talent that has had their days and had their experiences that they'll work with you and they'll share with you and they'll consult and advise with you. So Neil Kimberley is a great example. And the rest of the speakers today you'll hear, including Brad Barnhorn, was my first mentor I ever hired back when I started Steez in 2002 to write my business plan. I had no clue how to write a business plan. I didn't even know what that meant, but I knew I had to raise some money and someone had to see a document that proved out this crazy idea was somehow going to show a return. And we did it, and 15 years later, it worked. And so thank you, Brad, wherever you are out there. So anyways, I'll get on with my presentation. But just to show of hands, who here is in that early year one that hasn't launched yet? Raise your hands. Nice. Good, half the room almost. Who here is already in the other year when that's post-production, you have a product on the market? Raise your hands. Nice, nice. Who here is from supply chain or marketing or some kind of business that touches our industry that helps these entrepreneurs? Nice, nice. So like this is, you guys just gotta like think about this for a couple seconds. There's a room here of like 120 people, of co-creators that have all come together to literally, potentially, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of brands in here in 10 years could be vitamin water. We're incubating some of those brands now, and it's actually so exciting to have these projects come in, because we're at the point, our kind of slogan is co-creating a better future at Metabrand. We're seeing such amazing ideas that are still happening. There's still things that are on trend that aren't out in the market yet. There's still technologies that aren't done yet. There's an amazing time for you guys to still get into this industry and make a mark in the world. So congratulations to everybody that's come together to co-create. It's an amazing experience. That's my mission, by the way. 15 years ago, I started off with a simple mission. It was literally to create an organic soda that had a healthy ingredient. I used green tea that would take on Coke and Pepsi and show them that a little company could make a healthy soft drink experience and give back and have a triple bottom line business model that cared about the people, cared about the planet, and cared about ethical profits. And we were one of the first companies at Steve's that did this early on and talked about these kind of things. And most people in the bigger beverage world thought it was nuts. They're like, why is this guy talking about people and planet? What's a soda company? That's not a... And I would take them through my idea that, well, I didn't use preservatives and I didn't use chemicals, and I found ways to use natural flavorings and plant-based colors and green tea to make it healthy, and the experience I delivered to our customer at the end of the day was one that got them to buy into the company. And I didn't start the company with a lot of money. And I want to just point out a couple examples here, because I'm not sure how well-funded everybody in the room is here, but I wasn't well-funded when I started. When we started Steve's, it was literally out of the closet of my townhouse. I took all the clothes out, put a little table down. I had 2 little kids. My back was against the wall. It could not fail. I literally put the phone in and started dialing to everybody that I knew in the industry, the natural products industry, because I worked in it, to help me give me a purchase order, help me get distribution, help me with a trade show, help me with any support I can get. But I only had like $25,000. That was really all we had. And if I lost that, I was done, because I already quit my job to go do the stream. And that's actually something good too, by the way. There's 2 people that walk in our door at Metabrand in terms of entrepreneurs. Ones that have already left their job and they've already gotten full into this, or they're about to, and they are like, they're balls to the wall. They're all in. They've got everything into this, and if it doesn't work, they look at me and say, we don't know what we're going to do in a year. We can't go back to our industry. And then we have the people that come in, the entrepreneurs, that have an awesome idea, a dream, but they're not ready to quit their day job yet. They, for whatever reason, that's not a negative, they just can't do that yet. And so we try our best to counsel the young brands on some of the learnings that are going to happen that first year and how much time they're going to have to commit. But it is a commitment. You can get through that first year and do all the stuff you need to do, working your full-time job. But once that business goes live and the production's done, it's all in, guys. I've never seen one brand make it in my 15 years, and I know almost every story out there where somebody wasn't all in after production. And so we do sometimes see those clients too, where they're just not ready even after a few months of production to make that move to give full time, and we generally don't see a lot of those brands successful. So just want to point out some learnings. Some of this is brands I've created, Steve's and I Am, and I've got my fortunate DNA on everything on this page, including the products that are out there. What I mean by that is Runa is a great example. So at Metabrand, Runa came to us, Neil's the advisor, came to us to handle outsourced operations, supply chain and logistics support, and to handle the production of their formulation, which we do in-house at our lab, as well as their flavor systems and their tea distillation, which we do for them from the tea they send up from Ecuador to us. Love the product, as Neil said. FitPro is a great example of just an entrepreneurial guy out of the Midwest who was a dairy farmer, and he was also a power weight lifter, and had this idea that he wanted real dairy in his drink, and there wasn't something out there that would give him real dairy. He didn't want reconstituted whey powder, and he came to us with the idea to help take this brand nationally, which we've done. Now it's a leading seller this summer in GNC. We've got him distribution in about 400 fitness clubs, which is doing phenomenal, and put him nationally into United Natural Foods, which is the largest health food distributor in America, and he's got, I think, about 150 Whole Food stores now. So he was smart. Brad was smart. He came to this conference 2 years ago with his dream and met up with folks that are here in the audience today advising you guys, and hired. And he sat there and listened, and he didn't know a lot, but he listened intently, and we helped him. And that's a great example of today. What you guys can get out of the day is, just because the presentations end, I think everyone's going to have their cards circulated around of their presentations. Feel free to reach out. Again, when I started the business, there wasn't this opportunity. We see through Metabrand, the statistics is in the industry, 7 out of 10 beverage brands, maybe 8 out of 10, fail by the end of their first year. That's pretty much still a fact. Our job is at Metabrand is to turn that the other way around, where 80% of the brands that we incubate and work with are on the market at the end of their first year. In fact, we've only had one brand in 3 years that hasn't made it. So our job is to make sure, as experts that have come together, to serve you entrepreneurs the best we can, with the best intel and the best experience, and also let you know about our mistakes. All right, so this page, you've got I'm assuming, you've got the idea, it's burned a hole in your head and you're ready to commit to it, and you're gonna go out. What do you do first? You're not gonna create a product. I mean, it starts with a product, but that's not what you're really creating. You're creating an experience, you're creating a brand, you're creating a company. You've got to really look at the emotional and lifestyle and experience of your company. It's all about that. The brands that have sold to Coke and Pepsi and Cadbury, the brands that are now $20, $30 million brands that have lived on their own, they're still doing well, like Boylan's, Guayaki I mentioned again because they're local here and I love them. They've created all that properly. They've understood that it's not just about what's in the bottle. Look, guys, the truth is, for a couple 100,000 years, human beings only drank water. They don't need to have anything else but water once you're done breastfeeding. You don't have to have beer. You don't have to have iced tea. You don't have to have energy shots. It's all because about 5,000 years ago, out of modern-day Iraq, the Sumerians started making alcoholic drinks, and people got buzzed. They felt an experience. That experience then was multiplied across other different concoctions with herbs and botanicals over the past couple thousand years that created more and more and more experience. That's all consumers really want at the end of the day. They want a beverage that's going to make them feel something. Even if if it's a bottled water, it doesn't make them feel different. By buying that bottle of water or buying into that brand, they're voting with their dollars that they're part of that experience of whatever that magic is the founders created. And just keep that in your mind, guys, the word magic. There has to be a magical story in your head. If you guys are sitting there and you're looking to launch your brand, you got to find that magic, assuming you're going to have a great product, a great formula. That's a given, because you're not going to go to market without that. Somehow, someone's got to create, whether it's you or a marketing team, someone's going to create a magical story, because at the end of the day, that's what consumers are buying into. I'd rather, if I had a national brand in the US, I'd rather 100,000 people love my brand passionately than 1 million people dislike it. Because when they love your brand, they become your brand evangelist. They become your loyal brand ambassadors. They're the ones out there tweeting and blog posting and telling their friends and family about this awesome new beverage they encountered for the first time in their local store. That becomes your mouthpiece. That is an extension of you. So figure out that magic. However you got to figure it out, it's very important. So these are some ideas that need to be thought about and accomplished before you get to first production at the end of that first year, however long it takes for you to incubate your life cycle of your little babies that you're growing. Some of these you're probably going to see today more teased out. I wish I had more time to go through them in detail. But you got to really understand these four areas here. So unique selling proposition. You probably heard that before. It's marketing speak. Guys, there's got to be something unique about your product if you're going to market. If you're 4th or 5th or 6th in the category, it's probably pretty silly for you to launch just another one, because the buyers are going to say to you, why? Why do I need you? Now, I know there's a few people in the audience here right now that I know about their ideas. A couple of them we're working on, and they are fantastically, uniquely different selling propositions that I couldn't even believe someone came up with. And I'm so excited to be part of them, because they're game changers in the industry. So just think really hard if you're going to do it. You may have some kitchen recipe that's been passed down for generations and maybe nobody's seen it yet and it's different, or maybe it's some technology, some great idea. Make sure it's unique, guys, because there's no sense going through a whole year and all the sweat, blood, and tears and putting up your own money just to find out when you launch, the buyer says to you, I've already got 4 of these iced teas. Why do I need another one? Well, I've got this in it. Well, but I've already got that one on the shelf. It's pretty similar. You're going to encounter that. It's a crowded category, so really understand the marketplace needs too, by the way, and the target demographic. A lot of times people come into us to formulate, and it's their own taste or their own ethnicity that is supporting their product idea, but then we really explain to them and look at the big picture of where this product's going to live in a retail environment. There isn't enough of that customer per se, or that base of support. One of the things you could do is you could do a marketing feasibility study. We do them all the time at Metabrand now. It's when the entrepreneur has an idea, but isn't really sure it's viable, and they want to make sure it's viable, or their investors want to make sure it's viable before they invest in it. So there's ways to collect data, to buy data, public data, and put together trend analysis and look at gaps in the channel and see basically how this thing should prove out. A lot of that work you do in a marketing feasibility study could then be used in a future business plan to raise money off of. So you'll hear that word. We're talking about it all the time. We're trying to encourage every brand that comes into our company that if they're not completely 100% gung-ho on their idea and they believe 1,000% there's a need for it, if they're doubting it, we'd rather take them through that exercise first, and it may prove out that it's not the best idea for them to invest in. We've had some of those as well. So R&D, the next thing is, if you've got this idea, you've whipped it up in your kitchen. Probably everybody here has done that first. That's what I've always done it in my kitchen. But the truth is, what you do in your kitchen isn't really applicable to commercial product. It's not going to work unless you're a chemist or you understand biology of these ingredients. You got to set proper pH. You got to set a safe product. At the end of the day, guys, you're selling a product that when it goes in the market, it's regulated heavily by the FDA. Theoretically, if something goes wrong, someone could die. So just be aware. This isn't a pizza place you're starting where people are just going to eat your pizza and be happy all day because it tastes great. You're putting products on the market that need to be safe. So I just strongly suggest, whether it's us or any of the other flavor houses out there or formulators, work with a smart team. Make sure they commercialize your product. You'll hear more about that from Catherine today. Looking at all these four elements here, what goes into R&D, ingredients, quality, taste and feel, color and aroma, cost and function, they're all part of what happens when you work with a formulation lab year one. These are the key bullets if you're going to go in and sit down and talk about what your needs are. Make sure you're talking about these four things. Cost and function, at the end of the day, don't get yourself in trouble by creating a formula or creating a product and spending the money to do that, and then at the end of the result, find out that it's completely priced above whatever the market will bear. And we see a lot of that too. We see some entrepreneurs that come in and they don't care. They are buying exotic superfruits from around the world. They're flying in ingredients from third world countries, and that's great. But at the end of the day, when they do their cost of good analysis, they're like, oh my God, this is going to be a $7.99 iced tea. That's not going to work. So you really got to think about supply chain. Again, working with a flavor house or a formulation lab, that's one of the exercises they'll do for you, is they'll price out all the ingredients that they're supplying you with or that they'll recommend in the formula and understand the cost of goods per bottle. Distribution, I wouldn't go into launching a product ever if there wasn't distribution set up. That's like my best practice. A lot of entrepreneurs in the beverage business have their own best practices. I've launched probably maybe 50, 60 beverages in my day. I've never gone to production without a pre-commitment from a distributor. That's just the way I operate. Not everybody does that, but I want that stuff sold out the door, on a truck, on the way to a store, because that money's tied up in the bank and inventory, and that clock's ticking on your money or your home equity loan or your family's loan, whatever it is. Someone's tying up capital. Don't make your product unless you absolutely have no choice, and maybe there's some interesting dilemmas that you're stuck in, like a refrigerated product, which you may not have distribution right away. You've got to get those samples done, and it takes a couple weeks to get the distributor to say yes once the first production run's done. But generally speaking, your pilot facility or your formulation lab or your flavor house will make you up enough samples, mocked up samples. Your marketing department or your graphic designer should put labels on them. Go pre-sell that stuff. Make sure when you go to production, because the minimums aren't low. Right now, minimums are pretty high for most of the companies that we talk to on the bottling side. You want a good commitment out the door. I'll just give you an example with Steez. I was very lucky, and by the way, this is just good to hear this, because everyone's got their own story here in the room as an entrepreneur. You don't have to have $250,000 or $1 million to launch a beverage company. You really don't. You should have, a couple $100,000 to safely get through whatever you need to do in your home market. But I started Steez, again, on $25,000. I got lucky because I showed those samples around for my flavor house, and a distributor named United Natural Foods was inspired enough to have the first organic soda in America, and they cut us a $68,000 purchase order. I then took that $68,000 purchase order, and I went to what's called a master distributor. It was a $100 million food company that imports products from around the world and handles their sales in the US. And I sold them in the idea that I already had a purchase order from the biggest distributor. Will they back that and put up a bigger production run and have the rights to the natural class of trade? They said yes. They cut me a PO for $250,000. I sat there 2 months later and got a check in the mail in my little townhouse, which I was working out of my closet, for $250,000. And I was like, holy shit, I'm cash positive. Like I couldn't, like it really happened. And no different than my other company I am. We started out with almost nothing, just enough to do the trademarking and the legal stuff we had to do, but we went that same route. We found a unique situation with a supplement distributor that wanted to carry a product like that and did a deal with us like that to fund our inventory. So you could be creative. On the marketing side, building awareness, driving trial, inspire consumption. Again, guys like Neil Kimberly and other very smart marketers, way smarter than me, are here today. That should all be consulted with and advised upon and mapped out prior to going to market. Don't figure it out after you launch. Have a very solid game plan. Those sell sheets, those point of sale materials, those shelf talkers, the danglers, whatever you need to have done, the sales and marketing deck, have that all buttoned down perfectly before you go to production, and make sure everybody's trained and excited about your product. Remember, there's nothing going to happen if product's sitting in a warehouse. You need to have everybody trained and pumped up properly, and that starts with your marketing efforts, whether it's yourself or a team that you hire. I'm only going fast, by the way, because I only have 20 minutes and then you guys are getting up, so I wouldn't normally talk this fast, even though I'm from Boston, sorry. 7 key decisions to answer before you start your post-production year. So post-production is obviously after production, what that year looks like. By the way, it's a magical year. Just remember, guys, I've been there. The first year you're always going to remember. You're not going to remember any of the other years generally in between until you sell your company or have your liquidation. You're always going to remember that first year on the market because it's unbelievable. And then that last year is you're driving to whatever exit it is that you're hopefully going to achieve someday with your brand. So these are 7 kind of best practices. I'm just going to list them off here. We'll talk about them. Again, do not go into business unless you're unique to the marketplace. Best practice. Just don't. The world doesn't need another energy shot. How much money are you willing to put into your own? In case you're wondering, and I know I've talked a little bit about it, generally speaking, the entrepreneur that comes into us has about 50 grand of their own money, and that's enough to get through marketing, build, packaging, website, the copywriting, the formulation work, and the initial advising that comes with consultants that will help them put that model together to map out a sales and marketing plan for the next 3 years. It's generally about 50,000. That's it though. Once you get past that, you're gonna have to raise money for inventory and for first year's needs. Family members are professional consultants, so this is an interesting one. So obviously today, in this modern day, you could find consultants everywhere. They're on the internet, they advertise on BevNet. There's a lot of great consultants out there to work with. Use them. I've seen in the past too many of the entrepreneurial companies lean on family members for support. They give them equity, and it ends up oftentimes, unless the person really can carry the weight, being a recipe for disaster. So I'm just putting it out there. It's better to work professionals than just give away a bunch of equity in the beginning to family members that all say they want to jump in on your dream. Trademark approval, I had a big mistake. I didn't get my trademark approved with Steve's when we first launched. I just thought I was going to get it approved because I didn't hear back from the PTO. Well, 6 months in, someone challenged my mark and I couldn't use the name. My original name was Steep, S-T-E-A-P. So I had to change all my packaging and bleed through product for about 6 months and it sucked. I learned a lesson. Did you get a distributor to commit? Again, best practice, don't go to production unless someone's going to support you. How much money should you raise for year one? So 50 is the base, but generally speaking, people are about 250 in that we see, and that's usually enough to launch in a regional market. So San Francisco, you always want to plan on usually 2 or 3 production runs worth of inventory cash and enough to get by first year. So 250 generally seems like enough if you're just going in one market. And do you sell your cases on your own or build your sales team? This is a great question. You could do it both ways, and we see it both ways. We see entrepreneurs that want to go out there first and prove concept before they take on investors, and they go out there and sell it themselves. It's just going to take you a heck of a lot longer to build your brand. So there's great regional broker groups. I know Cascadia is here, which is one of them, that will put on sales and marketing folks for you at a fraction of the cost of you hiring yourself full-time. Again, that wasn't really so popular when I started 15 years ago. So today there is actually great outsourced people that just work on commissions that represent other beverages or foods that you can work with. I would suggest probably some hybrid in the beginning while you're proving it out the first year. All right, so that was me. Thank you very much. I'm going to invite up Catherine Deibler, our technical director, and she's going to talk to you about formulation. Thank you.